Hey class. In this video, we are going to go over some more level design techniques, and I'm also going to update you guys a little bit on the schedule for the semester. So we're going to keep working with MicroStudio this week. We are going to swap the order that we previously had. So this week, we're going to be finishing up the MicroStudio game, and we're going to do feedback the next week. So actually, let me edit this because I forgot to take. Okay, so what we're going to do this week is we're going to add multiple levels to the game and an ending. And then we are going to publish the game on itch.io. And finally, we're going to create a little bit of documentation. So I want to go over how to make a video of the gameplay. So that'll be the last part. And we're going to post all of that. We're going to publish on itch.io. We're going to post all of that on OpenLab. Next week, we're going to do playtesting, and that's it. So your game should be available on itch.io. Next week, we'll make a game jam, and you guys can all join the jam. You can test each other's games, and then you can write a post where you summarize the user feedback. And actually, that should be blog assignment 7. Okay, so spring break is in the middle of this, so that's why the playtesting will happen on the starting in April. So there's a little gap here. That gives you a little more time to work on the game, so that's good. And then we'll do playtesting for a week, and then we'll start our Godot project. So I kind of shifted the schedule around a little bit. I think it'll be a little more straightforward this way. We are going to work on our Godot project for 3 weeks, and then we're going to do the same thing. So rather than end the semester with turning in the Godot project, we're going to end the semester with playtest. So we'll have the playtest start on the 14th week, May 11. That's technically the last week of class. And then the 18th, it'll be due. So all of that is updated in Brightspace. I think I did a better job of updating everything on Brightspace than here. But if you see any dates that look off or anything that's confusing, just email me and we can fix it. Anyway, that's the basic idea. We have an extra week with these projects, so we'll take another week for playtesting instead of trying to do those at the same time. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't really work with the MicroStudio, maybe we'll switch it back for Godot. Let me know what you guys think. But I think this will be a good schedule. So yeah, that's the update. So let's talk about some level design techniques. This is just kind of talking more. Last time we did level design principles. This is techniques. They're kind of related. Again, it's not exhaustive. It's just a few examples. And then we'll get into MicroStudio in the next video and add our levels. So let's go over some level design techniques. So again, this is not exhaustive. These are just a few examples. This comes from that Crawford book on game design. So you can take a look at that if you want more details. But I have a few examples here, and you can also probably think of examples. So signposting is the first example that we want to use. This is related to guidance. So remember last time we talked about the principle of guidance? Signposting is one of the ways that we implement guidance. So signposting is using literal instructions, visual or audio clues, character dialogue or narrative, or other signals to direct the player through a level. So we see here just a sign that literally says go this way. This is the most literal version of signposting, but signposting can be a lot of things. We talked about how we can show the player what direction we want them to go in based on the overall structure of the level. If they can't go to the left, then they're going to say, okay, I got to go to the right. If they can't go to the right, but there's platforms going up, they may say, okay, I've got to go up. These are different forms of signposting. So guidance is sort of the overall principle. Signposting is the technique. There's a little bit of a difference between those things. These are kind of not, super concrete terms. They're a little bit ambiguous sometimes. They can refer to different things. But when we talk about principles, we are kind of talking about like the general way that we approach game design. When we talk about techniques, we're talking about the literal things in the game, in the level that we create. So signs are an example of that, or narrative that tells you where to go, things like that. Okay, gating. Gating is restricting any part of the game, whether it's a level or an area, and requiring the player to get items or achieve solve puzzles or achieve other things to get to that area. Here we see the ice key, a very difficult to find key in the game Banjo-Kazooie. If you've ever played that, it's a fun one. If you haven't, you should check it out. So a lot of time this is just a literal key, find the key to open the castle type thing. Sometimes this is more vague, like, you have to solve a puzzle, you have to discover an area. Anytime that you are restricting an area of the game and making it difficult to get there, that's gating. Okay, risk versus reward. So this is about the overall design of a level. This image comes from Halo. This is the Blood Gulch level in Halo. And this is just an example of high risk versus high reward. So the way that the level is designed is that you have this like central area, and to get there, you have to expose your position. So you have to go through this like valley. And so you incur a lot of risk, but if you make it through, there's a high reward, which is winning the map. So risk versus reward is a technique where we give the player options about how to approach a problem, and we can increase the risk to also increase the reward, or we can balance risk and reward. So in a good game, we want there to be risk, we want there to be challenge, but we also want to balance that with reward. So if we take on a high risk, then we should get a good reward for that risk. Safe zone. So safe zone is a technique to give the player a way to navigate through the level. So classic example is these little barriers in Space Invaders. So you can hide behind the barrier in Space Invaders, but if you're behind the barrier, you can't shoot the aliens. So a safe zone gives you an opportunity to kind of see what's happening in the game, strategize. Of course, the safe zone does eventually deteriorate, so you can't just stay there forever, but it gives you a chance to strategize. It gives you a chance to catch your breath and make decisions before you approach a challenge in a game. So that's the safe zone. Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is when we reveal a challenge to the player before they've reached the challenge. This is from the Outer Wilds, one of my favorite games. You see this one of the sort of like key components of the game. You get this foreshadowing of it when you first start the game. I won't reveal what that is, but I highly recommend that game if you have not played it. Foreshadowing can be done with lots of different things, like mechanics. So we might want to show the player risks or obstacles that they're going to run into before they run into them. So they know, oh, that scary monster that I just saw, I'm going to have to, defeat that monster later in the game. That's foreshadowing. It gives us a chance to understand the mechanics of the game. Okay, branching and bottlenecking. This is when we give the player options for how to travel through a level or through a story. We give them a bunch of different options, and then those options coalesce towards the end of the level. And this can be paired with risk and reward. We can have some options that are easier, but you have the option to get as many items or something like that. Or we can have a difficult branch with lots of challenge and better rewards. So those things are very closely related. Finally, the last one here is layering. So layering is when we introduce different game mechanics and then layer them on top of each other. So this is a screenshot from Mega Man, and essentially what we see here is as we move through the level in Mega Man, we get introduced to different enemies, and we can learn how to defeat those enemies, and then they combine the enemies into one area. So now we have to learn what we've figured out in previous areas and figure out how to combine it together. So layering is a way of taking parts of the game that we already have, but then putting them together to add to the challenge. So in our demo game, we have enemies that move right and left. We have enemies that move up and down. So then maybe we could mix them together to make a more challenging jump or area of the game. So again, these are not exhaustive. These are just a few examples, but those should give you some ideas for how you want to start building out different levels with different challenges and different feeling as we add to the game. So in our demo for this week, we're going to keep working with MicroStudio. We're going to add a couple more levels. And the idea is we want our levels to feel unique. Remember our unique levels principle. So we don't want a boring game where we just jump over, jump over the same obstacle over and over again. Eventually we're going to get bored of that. We want to add challenge to that. There's lots of different ways to do that. You could speed up the levels. You can add more enemies to the areas. You can space the platforms wider apart. There's lots of different ways that we can make our levels feel unique. But we want to make sure that we're thinking about that, how the levels fit together, and making the game more dynamic and interesting. All right, so that's it for this video. In the next video, we will build our levels in MicroStudio, and then we will also publish our game on itch.io at the end. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next video.